Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Ham on Beats. I really enjoyed the explanation of Clamp in Wonderland, the story of Kakyoin and JoJo having a child born from an egg, done by Clamp Studio, was it? Um, then I've seen that we've got another video which is like the best JoJo fan project, so it'll probably mention that, but then it'll go over other interesting JoJo fan stuff that's out there that I've probably never ever heard of. So let's get into it.
Ham on the beat!
Across all the videos I've made on this channel, I've talked about a huge variety of JoJo topics, but very rarely have I ever dipped into the vast amount of fan content for the series. I've been a fan of JoJo for close to 10 years now. For newer fans, there's a ton of existing content to get into, like the manga, anime, spin-offs, and much more. But it wasn't always like that, and for a time there was far less available outside of the original manga. And for English-speaking fans, even the manga's translation was patchy in some areas.
Well, yeah, we've only just in England got halfway through Stone Ocean. So I'm waiting for that to finish, and then hopefully we'll get the next part printed out and I can read it out.
But I think it's actually because of this that fan content for JoJo flourished so much, and back then, having partook in it was almost a necessary part of being a JoJo fan. Some of these things were completely essential to my own experience as a fan, so I'd like to share them with people that otherwise would have never heard of them. In this video, I'll be going over what I feel are the most important, interesting, and influential JoJo fan projects.
Cool.
JoJo fan content comes in all shapes and sizes, so I think
Wow, that art style is very different. I like it.
would be best to approach them loosely.
When I say different, I mean to the JoJo's series.
Grouped together by type. First, I'd like to take a look at some notable JoJo fan manga. First, I want to focus on the works of Virginia Nitohei, who has made 3 different JoJo doujinshi. First is Little by Little. This is a gag manga putting humorous twists on events from JoJo. For example, at the beginning it shows the scene when George Joestar gives Dario his ring, but instead it's framed as them turning out to be in a relationship. Another one is based on the scene from the Enigma arc of Josuke showing his tell of biting his lower lip, but here he bites Teranosuke's lower lip instead. This next one pokes fun at the fact that Jotaro was only briefly referred to as Jojo near the beginning of the story, before the others switched to calling him Jotaro like Joseph does. Here Joseph fears that the others will all start calling him Old Man like Jotaro. One really funny one shows the death of the dog Poki from the Yellow Temperance fight in Part 3, with Raimi narrating it as if it were a Pocky game. My personal favorite of the bunch is this one, which groups in the cameo of Waldo with the others at the end of Part 3. There's a lot more funny things here, so I do actually recommend reading it. Another one of their works is called Judas Iscariot, and is a short story showing what happened to Fugo. Here, immediately after the scene of Fugo being left behind, he meets Doppio and ends up being sent on a mission to kill the traitors. I won't spoil what happens though. The most interesting story they've made is the one called Till We Eternally Rest. Here, Dio doesn't test out the mask on someone else first, and moves ahead with his initial plan, which ends up turning Jonathan into a vampire. Jonathan disappears, and Dio continues living with George and tries to search for Jonathan on his own, and ends up crossing paths with other characters like Zeppeli and Erina. As a vampire, Jonathan refuses to drink blood and tries to learn the truth behind the mask, and also ends up meeting Speedwagon.
Cool.
It's actually a really interesting take on Phantom Blood, so I recommend reading it if you're interested.
That does sound really freaking awesome. That sounds boss.
This next manga is a bit different from the rest in that it is involved with JoJo in some official capacity. I'm talking about Taizo Mote King Saga, a parody manga created by Amon Dai. Rather than being a fan-published doujinshi, this was actually serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump, and it parodies or references several Jump manga, most notably JoJo. The sheer amount of reference...
So that's how you get away with it by... Well, not get away with it, but have it as its own thing by referencing multiples. You couldn't just have Shonen Jump just like publishing a weekly JoJo parody.
To JoJo made in the manga is simply too many to list, and I do wish to make a full video in the future going over everything. Unfortunately, at the moment, there is no English translation of the manga. One thing I do want to point out, however, is that the author is actually friends with Araki. In an interview, Araki has also jokingly referred to Amon Dai as his successor. When asked what he thinks of the parodies of JoJo, Araki said that Dai often comes over to apologize. The thing that sets this entry apart from everything else on this list, though, is the fact that Araki himself has crossed over with it. Araki drew this page in the manga depicting the character Taizo Momote. The most well-known JoJo fan manga, however, would probably have to be Clamp in Wonderland, JoJo's Bizarre Married Life. This is a doujinshi series created by the mangaka group Clamp. Clamp is an all-female mangaka group and is actually very well known for creating series like Cardcaptor Sakura, as well as contributing character designs to Code Geass. Before that, though, they published fanzines based on other series. One of these was JoJo's Bizarre Married Life, a comedic JoJo story about the married life of Jotaro and Kakyoin. This takes place in an alternate timeline where everyone survived Part 3. Even Dio is there as their annoying neighbor. Jotaro and Kakyoin get married, and in the most well-known aspect of this story, Kakyoin ends up laying an egg which hatches into Jotaro and Kakyoin's child, Jota Kujo. Jota's stand is Charmy Green, a green version of Star Platinum that can also unravel like Hierophant Green. Its signature attack is to fire emeralds from its fingers, which Jota calls Emerald Star Finger. The name Charmy Green was chosen when the group tried to decide on a name but were all out of tarot cards. Jotaro ends up naming the stand after a brand of soap. For whatever reason, Jota ages rapidly and by 1999 has become a high schooler. At the end of the manga, he ends up traveling to Morio and meeting Josuke. Outside of the manga, Jota actually makes an appearance in the Clamp in Wonderland animated music video produced by Studio Madhouse. Here we can see him in his child and adult forms alongside other Clamp characters. The ridiculous nature of this story has resulted in countless fan memes of it being made, and it was extremely widespread among JoJo fans for a time. Clamp actually has had some further involvement with JoJo, submitting an illustration of Jolene for the 25 Years with JoJo anniversary booklet.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, Akira Toriyama, Masashi Kishimoto, and Oda all did ones as well, didn't they?
As well as doing multiple interviews with Araki. Overall, this little story is actually really funny, and I think it's an interesting part of JoJo history. I go into much more detail for the manga and Clamp's history in a standalone video, so I recommend checking that out if you're interested.
It's a great video.
Next, let's look at some of the fan-made videos for the series.
Not just the story, but all the details around it as well, and who's involved, and where it appeared, and that. It's really informative.
One that holds a very special place in my heart is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure: The Abridged series by Antfish, based on the Part 3 OVAs. Released all the way back in 2008, this is a great look at what the English JoJo fan community was like back then, when the OVAs were the only anime available and there were only shoddy translations for many of the parts. Overall, I love the series, and I think it does hold up in a very 2000s way. Sometime later, Antfish also created an abridged series for the Phantom Blood anime, but unfortunately it hasn't continued for the past 8 years. Antfish went on to join Team 4 Star and has had a successful career as a professional voice actor. Another type of fan video that I've grown to love over the years is the JoJo MADs. If you don't know what an MAD is, it stands for Anime Music Doga. It's essentially the Japanese equivalent of what you would know as an AMV, or anime music video.
MAD, not
There's a long series of these MADs based on each part of the manga from a creator known as Rohanes. There are 5 of these videos, one covering the first 2 parts, and then 4 more going up to part 6. The videos all feature images from the manga edited together with music from the Japanese hip-hop artist Diggy Mo, and his songs from the group Sold Out. The reason for this is because this group actually has a deep connection with JoJo. They cite Araki as a...
Weird, I think I've seen some videos like that pop up to do with Mushoku Tensei. I nearly had stuff spoiled,
creative influence, and I've met and collaborated with him multiple times. In 2006, Araki drew the cover art for their single Catwalk, and in 2007 they recorded the song Voodoo Kingdom, which was the theme song for the now lost Phantom Blood movie. Later, 2 of their songs, Magenta Magenta and Weka Pipo, served as the namesakes for 2 Steel Ball Run characters. For the MADs, I think the songs are used really well, and I think the best thing about them is the very clear skill in editing, and Rohanes animates the characters from scratch for some sequences. I was actually already a fan of the videos when the one for Part 6 released all the way back in 2015, which was a huge event for me. After years, we also now have confirmation of a Part 7 video in the works, with Rohaness posting frequent updates on Twitter.
Ain't that cool?
There's a bit of a misconception I've seen based on some YouTube playlists that seem to believe they already made one, since you'll often see a Part 7 MAD grouped with theirs. The video uses multiple animated Steel Ball Run sequences with a playlist of sold-out songs. However, this wasn't made by Rohaness. Also, these animations don't originate from this video and actually come from the old official Steel Ball Run Flash site, so they aren't really made from scratch or match up with the music like Rohaness's do. The MAD series overall has a very clear passion for JoJo, and watching these videos greatly colored my own experience with how I viewed the parts after reading them, so I hope the same can be true for you as well. Rohaness is actually involved in another very interesting JoJo project, a motion comic adaptation of the JoJo light novel, the book Forth Another Day, which is a sequel to Part 4.
Cool.
Starting in 2011, they released the chapters on Nico Nico Doga, later discontinuing the motion comic format and releasing chapters as a webcomic on Instagram in 2020. It was last updated almost exactly a year ago in August of 2022. It seems to have gone partway through the fourth of the book's 5 main chapters, so it's actually pretty close to the end. Hopefully they decide to continue this at some point. Another channel I think makes some really great JoJo edits is Disco Ballad, who has made multiple mock-up opening and ending sequences for the non-anime parts. Disco Ballad is one of the few whose editing style I would compare to Rohaness, since a lot of videos in this style you see online are not done that well. The highlights here would be the Steel Ball Run opening using Sonochi no Sadame, the SBR credits using In the Shadow of the Valley, and the Stone Ocean credits with Easy Lover. My personal favorite would be the Stone Ocean opening using It's My Life by Gwen Stefani.
Cool.
Unfortunately though, this is the one that is no longer available on their channel and can only be seen through a re-upload. They have also made a series of stand catch videos for the manga parts. In more recent years, they've also branched out to create some original short films. Another favorite of mine is Nero, best known for creating the Kokoro JoJo series. These are edits using clips and voice lines from the anime synced up to the song Kokoro Odoru by the Japanese hip-hop group Nobody Knows Plus. This is a very popular video format, and you can see other series with similar videos. It's kind of hard to describe it in just words, so you really have to listen to them to understand the kind of energy these videos have. Of course, since I'm a huge fan of JoJo, those ones are special to me, and it's great being able to see them release in real time, with one for each part of the anime as well as the Rohan OVA. Nero has also made numerous other MADs, such as one for the Rohan TV drama and a very well-made Steel Ball Run video. Another type of fan video is the Medleys. These are based on the Kumikyo Nico Nico Doga video series, a compilation of various anime and video game songs popular on the platform. Numerous fan versions of this with their own lyrics have been released, with some of them being based on JoJo. One of these is the JoJo Medley from 2007. It was originally created by the user Pyataro, and features his own lyrics based on the first 7 parts of JoJo. It has segments based on the series' most recognizable moments, and since it's all sung by one person, it's interesting to hear how he thinks each of the characters sound without any kind of anime adaptation to base it on.
Oh, okay.
Of course, it's a very humorous video and is full of Japanese JoJo fan memes of the time, but it's also emotional at points, just like JoJo. Another similar video is the Steel Ball Run Medley, a 14-minute medley based solely on Part 7. Unlike the JoJo medley, this one actually features different voices for each character. I think the singing in this one is actually really good, and whoever wrote it obviously understands the characters of Part 7 very well. It's no secret that I'm a huge fan of JoJo the Anthology songs, the 3 official character song collections that released in 2015.
Ooh, I don't think I've heard of these. This is interesting. Always learn stuff from Hamon Beatman. I love how much of a big, massive JoJo's fan he is to just put out everything he knows out there in videos.
These contain songs by the singers of the first 3 anime openings representing the first 3 JoJos and the Part 3 main cast. Young Joseph's song, Crazy My Beat, is actually the song I've used in my intro. I've always wanted them to do this for the rest of the anime, and the Steel Ball Run medley is like a taste of that sort of thing for Part 7. I'd say Hot Pants' parts are the highlight for me here, and the voice for her actually went on to become a professional singer under the name Valsh. She's apparently known for being able to sing with both male and female voice types, pretty fitting for Hot Pants as a character. She went on to sing opening and ending themes for the Detective Conan anime, and even had a voice acting role in Fire Emblem Fates.
Wow.
The video as a whole does an amazing job of representing everything in Part 7, and it has a really good sense of progression going through the entire story. If you've read Part 7, you know that it's a very emotional story, so you'll probably feel the same way watching this, and I think it's essential viewing for anyone who has read Steel Ball Run.
Oh, mate, like I said, I started Steel Ball Run online, and I don't enjoy JoJo's in that way. I reckon I'd enjoy it more having the physical copy there and reading it, and I love the hardbacks. But once I've seen it, I know I should go back and read the mangas, but it's just one of those. I feel like I know the story, if you know what I mean. And I just kind of like, I'm not paying as much attention to it. But with Steel Ball Run, I'm really looking forward to the physical copies coming out, to buy them as they come out and then read them that way. And then I'm really looking forward to checking out all the videos to do with Steel Ball Run and then going forwards. It's an exciting time. It's like now I enjoy. I think, well, I haven't got up to the point yet. Once I finished Wano, started Egghead, and then I was like, no, I'll buy the volumes as they come out because I enjoy reading them that way than online. So I think the next volume that comes out will be the first volume that I've not read anything from online, and it'll be fresh again. So exciting times coming my way.
Next, we can take a look at some of the notable JoJo fan games. The most well-known of these, of course, has to be the Seventh Stand User, an RPG Maker game released in 2006 by the user Clayman, telling the entire story of Stardust Crusaders from the perspective of a custom character that joins the group. The game starts with a personality quiz which gives you one of 18 original stands. Then you start in Japan and move all the way to Egypt with the other characters, fighting the main battles of Part 3 as well as completely original ones. The game also lets you change the story to go down different routes on the journey to Egypt, to let certain characters survive, and the game has multiple endings. It's very interesting and definitely one of the most ambitious fan projects. There's a full English fan translation of the game, and it's free to play for everyone. I haven't played through the entire thing, but at some point I would like to, and to make a video about it.
All the endings.
In 2015, a group of fans received permission from Clayman to make their own sequel to the game, Seventh Stand User 2, this time set in Part 4. The project seems to still be active, and you can see a lot of concept art on their blog.
Cool.
The other JoJo fan game that I'm most interested in is Diavolo no Daiboken, a mystery dungeon-style roguelike starring Diavolo set during his infinite death loop. The title is based on the game Torniko no Daiboken, a Dragon Quest spin-off which was the first mystery dungeon game released. Although most people watching this would most likely be more familiar with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which used the same style of gameplay. This game released in 2007 to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the series. The game involves Diavolo wandering around randomly generated dungeons and fighting JoJo-inspired enemies like vampires and many of the series' stands. You can also collect stand discs which allow you to use multiple stand abilities. The game is also full of cameos from other JoJo characters. The game's music is made up of MIDI remixes of real songs, usually ones that have been referenced by Araki in some way. The game has no official English translation, but there are English guides out there that help you better understand the game. One more fan game project I'd like to look at is Diamond Records Revival. This one is more recent, since it's a project to recreate the now-defunct Diamond Records mobile game. This was a 3D beat-em-up that included characters from the first 5 parts of JoJo. I feel like it was pretty unique, since it included a lot of very minor characters that you wouldn't otherwise see in a game like this. The game officially shut down in November of 2019, with this project starting the next year, aiming to bring a version of the game to PC. More than just a simple port, there's actually a lot of changes made to make it better optimized as a PC game. There's also even more obscure characters being added like Adams and Doobie. The development is starting from Part 1 and moving in chronological order, and as of a couple months ago, it's still in progress and actually improved a lot since I last saw it. While doing a video about JoJo fan projects, I'd be remiss to leave out possibly the most well-known of all English fan works, the infamous Duwang Scanlation of Part 4. A lot of people nowadays might not be familiar with it, but these were the original English fan translations of Part 4, known for their poor scan quality and even worse translation, full of errors and other mishaps.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The nickname Duang comes from the mistranslation of the name of Morio used in early chapters, which comes from converting the name of the town to Chinese. The translation allegedly comes from a group of Chinese students who translated the story from Japanese to Chinese to English for a school project. The poor quality of the translation led to a host of humorous lines that stem from being out of place to completely nonsensical. Some of these include botched name translations like Koichi Hirose being called Guanglai Kangi. The most famous line probably comes from Kira's introduction where he exclaims, "What a beautiful Duang." My favorite part about it is how super straightforward it is, and it sort of makes every character really crass compared to other translations. For a long time, this was all that was available for people to read Part 4. In my personal experience, there had been better translations all the way up to around the final arcs, so my first time reading actually ended with the Duang translation, I believe starting from around Cheap Trick. This was eventually remedied in August of 2014, when the entirety of the part was finished. That's almost 9 years now, so a lot of people have never had to read them to go through Part 4, and so they've started to be forgotten. However, I do think they're an important part of JoJo's translation history, and they really are quite funny. I would recommend anyone who has already read Part 4 to seek them out as a fun read.
Yeah.
This next one is probably going to be the least known thing in the video, but this is something I found interesting enough to want to include. This is a fan adaptation of Araki's debut manga one-shot, Poker Under Arms. If you aren't familiar, this was Araki's first ever published manga from 1981. It's the story of two Wild West outlaws that face each other in the game of poker. The style of it feels a lot different from how JoJo would look nearly 6 years later, but a lot of Araki's ideas could actually be traced back to this one manga. This animation is somewhat crude, but I actually find it really charming, and I'm surprised someone is invested enough in Araki's history to want to do it. The animation has subtitles but no voice acting, and covers the entirety of the chapter. The only major change is with the narrator. The original story was introduced by a man with a beard, and at the end you learn he was actually a drunk present at the bar who collects the outlaws' 2 bounties and became rich. In this version, the narrator is a younger, long-haired man, and when the drunk appears, he has a scar in his eye. And then in the ending, the long-haired man is shown with the same scar. I guess this was done to make it a bit less obvious that the narrator is the character, but I think that was already done effectively enough in the original. Regardless, it is a charming little project that I'm glad exists. Another section of JoJo fan content is JoJo-inspired projects. These aren't technically based on JoJo, but do wear their inspiration on their sleeve. The first one I want to mention is Rouch the Destroyer by Arclight Blues. The name of it is of course reminiscent of Bao the Visitor, Araki's manga from before JoJo. It started in April of 2023 and has had 3 chapters so far. It's about an alien invader trying to destroy Earth and fighting against another alien that acts as its protector. There's also a human astronaut character trying to stop the invader by piloting a nuclear bomb. The artist has made a lot of Araki-inspired fan art, and the style comes through in the comic while still being unique.
That looks really
The art is quite good, and just over the course of 3 chapters, it actually manages to go up in quality. The manga also has a colored version done by Lou, the colorist I use for a lot of my thumbnails. The fights are definitely JoJo-inspired and use a lot of that style of tactics. The story is also interesting from the little glimpses of it there are so far. Based on the author's notes, they've taken a lot of inspiration from Araki's book, Manga in Theory and Practice, where he goes over his method for creating a story.
I've been tempted to get that and read that. That's at Waterstones and everywhere else that sells manga around by me. Maybe worth a read.
That's a good guideline to follow, so I'm looking forward to seeing this one continue. You can see updates for this project on the artist's Twitter and Patreon. The other one I want to show off is Pink Among Blood Red Roses by the artist Paisley Rose. This is a longer project that started in May of 2022. As you can probably tell from the art, this is also JoJo-inspired, but has its own unique flair, with all of the characters being anthropomorphic animals. I think the JoJo inspiration is more apparent here in the story and how the fights play out, since the kinds of tactics used is very much like JoJo, and the characters have access to stand-like abilities. The story is about a girl named Rose Paisley who lives in the town of Greenville and is investigating the death of her close friend 7 years prior. I'd say that it definitely draws most of its influence from Stone Ocean and JoJolion. Rose is similar in a lot of ways to Jolene, and the town and murder mystery definitely reminds me of Part 4 in 8's Morio. Like I said before, the art is really unique. It starts off looking decent with some standout pages, but around the 6th chapter it seems to improve drastically and becomes very consistent. So far it's 15 chapters in, and it's actually really good. You can also check the progress of this one on the artist's pages. The most high-profile fan project of recent years would have to be Blood Sun Vendetta, a fan-made motion comic series by Mick Lauer, published on the YouTube channel Rice Pirate. Lauer is a professional voice actor and animator who got his start making parody animations on Newgrounds. The story takes place in 1999 in Mexico at the same time as Diamond is Unbreakable. The protagonist is named Jose, and is the illegitimate son of Whole Horse who is looking for his father. The project first started in 2017, and later in 2018, Lauer took an 8-day road trip across Mexico to gather reference material. In early 2019, a test scene was released showing off the main characters and their stand abilities. Jose's stand is called Black Hole Sun, based on the song by Soundgarden, and is a sentient stand like Echo's Act 3. The series is made up of individually released chapters that combine together at 6 chapters to an episode. The first chapter released in October of 2020, with the third and most recent releasing in December of 2021. Since it's still in its early stages, I can't delve too much into the content since a lot of the story is still a mystery. One thing I will say though is that I really like it. Due to being set in Mexico, it takes a lot of inspiration from the events of Part 2, with the story relating back to the Stone Mask and the Pillar Men.
Cool.
It taps into an interesting part of JoJo's history, which is the Aztecs' use of the mask, something that JoJo itself doesn't really elaborate on.
No, it doesn't.
I think it also does a very Iraqi thing of combining real historical figures with the backstory.
Cool.
I think calling it a motion comic is sort of an understatement, since it's actually quite animated and well done for a fan project. I don't want to get too deep into it since you can just watch it for yourself, but I think at some point I will do a deep dive on the project in a standalone video, likely once the first proper episode has been completed.
Cool.
Lauer has actually gone on to have some official involvement in the JoJo series. He voiced Mista in the English dub of Part 5. Kira Buckland also plays a role in the project, and she has since gone on to voice Raimi and Jolene in the series.
Sick.
Though it's been a while since the last release, there's clearly still progress being made based on his Twitter and Patreon. As it stands, there's currently about half an hour of content to watch, so I recommend checking it out. That's all the fan projects I'll be covering today. I'm glad I got to do this since I got to talk about some of the things that were really special to me from my early days of being a JoJo fan, and also discovering some more recent projects that others might not know about. I'd like to make another video like this in the future, so if there's any interesting JoJo fan works you think I should go over, comment them down below. If you want to stay updated, I hope that you'll subscribe and click the bell for future videos. You can also join the Hum and Beat Discord using the link in the description to be notified when new videos go up, as well as important JoJo news. Finally, I'd appreciate it if you support the channel on Patreon. Dr. Zombie.
Fair enough. Very cool. Very interesting and cool fan projects there. Like, that's boss. That's really, really cool. Like, fan animations, music videos, MADs, which again confuses me because he said it's an animated music thingy, so that would be AM. But but cool, and that explains what the things I've seen of Mushoku Tensei are that have popped up on my home suggested feed. But yeah, might check out some of that stuff. Thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video and want to be able to watch Patreon-only reactions, such as the original Dragon Ball series, links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is the last host support channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for that. And if you want to see my videos early, click that join button. Become a member today. What do you guys think of that? You guys click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys next time.